Just because I preach and you sing don't mean we equally yoked.
Talk about
Just because we both good at church don't mean we equally yoked. Because some of the most people I've been most unequally yoked with were people in church.
Yee.
See, and a lot of times we think being Christian or being called or being gifted is a sign that there should be a connection.
Yeah.
And that ain't it. Maybe we're just called to do God's work together. And that's it. But when we start getting this power couple thing going and we start thinking, well, this going to help me get more followers. And now we get to be an example. And now we get to let people record us as we walk in church together. And they watch us shake hands together. And I support him preach and he support me speak at the ladies conference. And it's like, that's cool if that's what God has assigned you to do.
Yeah.
But don't turn this relationship into another glorified business arrangement.
Ooh.
Welcome back to He Saw Me, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I pray this video blesses you and that you have a great time watching.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to He Saw Me. I know I have been gone for about 2 or 3 weeks. There's a lot going on. My work schedule and my hair wasn't done, and so it's just been a whole lot happening. But today, y'all, I have a very, very special episode as I have the bishop, preacher, pastor, rabbi himself, Sam Pryor, as you can see in the building. But before we even jump into this episode, y'all, I know it's going to be probably one of my favorite ones, even when I do this 5-6 years from now. And so go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share, get a notebook, all the things, so you can be ready to hear what we talk about, how many sermons he preaches today. So yeah. And if you go to a Baptist church, anything that you hear that's real churchy and Baptist, just jot it down all in the comments so you can see how much he's going to say. Because he's real churchy, y'all, just like me. So we're going to see. But Sam,
what's up, sis?
Before we even jump into, I got so much to ask about your story, your life, everything. I gotta start with a little icebreaker, right?
Okay.
Because
wait, before we do this, can I just say, Gav's amazing. This is my sister, y'all. So make sure your comments are nice, because I do fight sometimes. So. No, but Gav's amazing. Y'all keep subscribing and sharing. This is, give it a few months. She gonna be, I'm not even worthy to be on this YouTube channel, but she's amazing. So I love you. I honor you. I'm so proud of you and happy for you. So
thank you.
That's all.
I love you too. Y'all know it's the real honor to have him. And anybody who knows Sammy Pryor know he's gonna preach the house down wherever he goes. So I'm just happy that he's in the building. And the fact that he came to my house. Like,
my sister,
I ain't worthy. But yeah, he's definitely good for sure. But so the icebreaker, right?
Let's do it.
Since you can't preach the house down, we're gonna see how good you are, right?
Okay.
You ever heard of a game called Pick It Up and Preach?
I haven't. But it sounds fun. Okay.
So usually how it would be on TikTok, like you would be going through all throughout the house, and you'll be able, somebody would give you a random item. Yeah. You gotta preach like a little 20-second sermon off that item, right?
Uh-oh.
But I'm not vlogging, I'm going around. So after this bag, you're gonna do just 2 or 3. Okay. You're gonna pick out, close your eyes, and you're gonna pick out a random item. You gotta give like a 20-second sermon off the top of your head.
20-second sermon. That sounds fun. Okay.
Oh look.
All right. Oh,
some easy, some hard.
A tennis ball. Okay, a tennis ball. This ball, the way it's built and constructed, is used to thrive best off of resistance and impact. So meaning the harder I throw this ball on the ground, you hear? I'm going somewhere. The harder I throw this ball on the ground, the harder it goes on the ground, the higher it rises. And so maybe let this be an encouragement to you in a season of life where it may seem like life is knocking you down. Where it's fail after fail, rejection after rejection, trauma after trauma, trigger after trigger. The harder it knocks you down, you're built, you're designed, you're constructed to rise higher.
I tell you, he did it. He did
it. That's not true.
That was good. I almost came down the altar.
Don't do that. You need to. You need to. Yeah.
All right, give us 2 more. 2 more.
2 more. Okay. A water bottle. Okay.
Easy one.
Oh, is it easy? Let's see. This is probably harder for me. A water bottle. Notice that it's cool to have this water bottle. It really is. It's good. It looks good. Feels good. I'm sure it's good for you and to you when you drink it.
Right.
But the reality is, Gav, you'll never be able to experience what's put inside of there until you take off the cap.
Right.
And so for many of us, God has put so much inside of you, so much that that will help others and help you. Businesses, ideas, dreams, podcasts, ministries. But you'll never get all that God has put into you until you first remove the cap.
Hiya! I like that.
There it is.
And this out with one good one.
Yeah, okay. Let's see.
Ooh, I hope it's the hardest one.
Uno. Was this your hardest one?
No, but go ahead.
Okay, Uno. This is good. One, my favorite game. None of y'all can beat me at Uno. It gets real at the Uno table. Anyway, in this box are a bunch of cards. And when you pull out the cards, the reality is, if there's a good person shuffling, you never know what cards you're going to get. And the reality is, the objective is winning a game with cards you didn't ask for. And so in life, there are a lot of cards that will be dealt to you that you didn't ask for. You didn't ask to be raised in a single parent household. You didn't ask to have to raise your brother and sister. You didn't ask to have to do certain things to make it work. But the reality is, God has graced you because God dealt the cards.
Ooh.
And so God will never deal you cards that he won't give you the strength to win.
That's what I'm talking about.
There it is. That's fun. That's good. That's good. That's good.
So as you can tell, he do this, y'all. He does this.
Not at all. That's Holy Spirit. That's Holy Spirit.
Well, yeah, just to break the ice, I had to introduce you in a way. You know?
Yeah,
that's how I first met you. So I had to introduce you in a way like that. But man, it's so much that I gotta ask. But first, just get into more about who you are. How in the world? Because how old are you again?
24.
How in the world did you get into like preaching and all this at such a young age?
Oh man. So just something about me, which you kind of have gotten to know over the years if we got to know each other. I am a third generation preacher. So my granddad, Dr. George Wynn Pryor, was a pastor for 50 years. Then my dad and my uncle, my late uncle, Pastor Michael Pryor, but my dad, who's my pastor, still been pastor. He is 61 and he's been preaching for 40 years. You know what I mean? And been pastoring for like 33 of those 40. And then my big brother, we're 11 and a half years apart. He's a pastor. Wow. And so I grew up around it. But one thing I can appreciate, and I hope this answers your question, but one thing I can appreciate is, although I had such access and proximity to it, it was never forced on me. Like, I don't have that typical PK story where it's like, oh, you gotta be it because it's the family thing. Yeah. I appreciate my dad. He never made preaching or God's church the family business, because God's church ain't a business. Right. And so I was always around, and I thank God for that proximity because it started stirring something in me. I always knew I was called to preach. I think I was nervous and just kind of wanted to not feel like, oh, I'm just the status quo. Yeah. And so I ran for a little bit, but I've always known at an early age I was called to share God's word. Yeah, I always had that fire.
So was it always like, so since that you grew up watching that, since you always knew, was it something that you felt called to, but you weren't excited about it, or was it something that you were excited about getting into?
It was a nervous excitement.
Okay.
I was excited. I always knew. Like, I can remember stories where we'll be coming home after church, and I couldn't be no older than 9-10 years old. And, you know, in the car, Dad, you could have went here with it. Yeah. You know, telling my granddad, if you would have closed like this and then said that, you know, it was always something in me. And I always had nuggets where God would reveal certain things of creativity at looking at God's word. But I was nervous just because of who would want to hear me. You know, nervous of what if it doesn't work? Right. Nervous of what if you know, I misheard God, right? And I think that's a word because, you know, although I've started preaching and gotten into ministry, I still wrestle with that. Yeah. Of, okay, God, I think I heard you. You know, I believe I'm called to this. And maybe, you know, you're like this in that state where it's, you know, God is birthing something in you. But just do it. Just do it. Like, God, he won't leave you if he calls you to it. And so I think for me, it was just, I was excited, couldn't wait, but it was just the natural nerves of what ifs, a whole lot of what ifs.
I get that. Yeah. That's sermon number 1. But continue. No. But so what age were you when you officially got in there and preached your first sermon?
That's an interesting story. So, right after high school, fresh after high school, I didn't go off to college. There's a whole story why I think that's necessary, but I didn't go off to college. I stayed at home, went to community college at Mountain View. No, started at Cedar Valley. At Cedar Valley, and my church, we're a traditional Baptist church, and so sometimes it's hard to find people to really be effective with the youth. And so my dad was like, hey, is this something you want to try? And I was like, you know what? Like, I've been feeling led to do this.
Wow.
But I was just scared to say something.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I started at 18, started teaching Bible studies. But at 20, I preached my first official sermon. Yeah.
20 being my age is crazy.
Yeah,
I can see getting up there at this age.
Yeah.
So was it ever, because a lot of people at 20 are preaching, pastoring, and even people think that like as soon as you preach, your lifestyle gotta look a certain way. They gotta look a certain way.
Right.
So was there any like, I guess, pressure from like friends that you had to like, how was it just living? Was there pressure on you to live a certain way? Was there a struggle between how did that go?
I always knew there were eyes on me. I always knew. I always knew in the back of my mind there were some people watching. Yeah. I did not know it mattered to people. And so I spent a lot of time as a 20-year-old, trying my best to get it right. Yeah. That's one thing. Like, I wasn't perfect. Still nowhere near perfect. And I wasn't at 20. I think I was just a young kid trying to figure it out as he went. And again, I'm still in many ways a maturing young man trying to figure it out. But it wasn't a pressure. It was just, okay, don't do that again. Oh, okay. Stay away from that. Okay. Like, it was one of them where you literally learn as you go. Yeah. You bump your head, you stump your toe, you make mistakes, you make a mess out of things. Yeah. And God keeps you, and God develops you, and God grows you and matures you. Yeah. And so that's what my ministry could be summed up in is I was obedient to the call. I knew what God had for me. Yeah. But I bumped my head a lot of times. And so I don't think it was a pressure because I could live up to the expectations anyway.
That's good. See that, because that already leads to the next question I wanted to ask about, like preaching and stuff at this young age. In those moments where you slipped and when a mistake happened, was it hard for you to get back up there and like preach when something happened like that?
It hasn't been. It wasn't like that at first.
Okay.
When I was, from 18 to 20, that time period, like, of course there was conviction, of course, but it wasn't until I really started leading. And where I sometimes still wrestle with like that sense of unworthiness because I know me. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, if I'm honest with you, Gav, it was because I got to a place where I can be vulnerable. Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay, we family. Right? Okay. He saw me fam. Okay,
nothing right? To the whole world.
Yeah, nothing gets out except on YouTube. Right? It's between us. Keep a secret. No, but I think I started allowing myself to see myself based off of what other people saw. See if I can be a little more clear. Like, I saw myself through the lens of other people, how they viewed me. Yeah. And so if other people said I wasn't qualified, I felt like I wasn't qualified. If other people said, oh, you this, you that, to this day I still sometimes wrestle with, like, wait a minute, I might really be that. Yeah. Because you so often wanna please God, and a lot of us got some people pleasing in us. Yeah. And I wrestle with that, and I'm just now being free from that. But I had to learn, like, and one of my mentors, he shared this with me, like, see yourself the way God sees you, right? Because reality is, if people look at you long enough, they're going to find something wrong with you. Yeah. You see me through a camera, but if you were in the room, and if you were to look at me, you would notice, oh, he has eczema on his arms. You would notice, oh, his hair not all the way brushed. You would notice something that's off, that needs to be tweaked or fixed. And that's the reality, is people look at you, and if they look at you long enough, they gonna notice something wrong. But the reality is that they're not the judge or the jury or the execution. You know, that's for God to fix on God's time plan.
Yeah.
And so learning, like, there are moments where I feel like, oh my goodness, if they knew. If they could read my mind, if they could. The reality is, I'm going to tell you what it's changed. And I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you what it's changed, sis. It changed when I realized, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, I've been living my life and my ministry trying to please people instead of God. Like, I cared more about if people thought I was worthy.
Yeah. More
than I cared, because I confused people's affirmation with God's affirmation. So I thought, if the people feeling me, then God feeling me.
Yeah.
If the people agree, then God agree. If the people think I'm worthy, if the people think that I'm good enough, then God. But the reality is, the same people who may deem you unworthy are unworthy themselves in many cases. And so when I realized, wait a minute, who are you really serving? Who are you really trying to please?
Wow, yeah.
That's and this is all coming from a perspective of still a work in progress.
Yeah.
But that's when the page started getting ready to be turned. Is when I realized, at the end of the day, we all got our stuff. We all are imperfect on our best days.
Yeah.
Bible says all of our righteousness are nothing but a filthy rag.
Yeah.
And so when I realized, wait a minute, I only serve God.
Right.
Like David said in Psalms 46, against you and you alone have I sinned.
Yeah.
Right? That's when it started to change for me. So, yeah.
That's good. I think even like just knowing you for so long, and even just that moment, like your vulnerability, your openness, and all of that. And I see that time and time again also in the pulpit, like the sermons that you preach. So how do you have that type of boldness to be that open and vulnerable in front of like a crowd of people? Like, I've seen you on packed days just talk about things you struggle with or things you're struggling with currently. How are you able to do that? Because a lot of pastors, they're not doing that.
It's definitely not the easiest thing to do, especially when you're doing it in front of, there could be people who like, see, I told you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or that's what they want to see from you. But I learned, like, vulnerability and transparency, especially for our generation, is it's something that's needed to reach them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I believe the day of having the perfect preacher or pastor is over, because people don't want to see just you when you got it right. Right. They want to know, okay, that don't apply to me because I ain't here. Yeah. And there are some people who believe, and I ain't never gonna get here, right? Yeah. So show me the steps of what it looked like for you to supposedly get here. And I put quotations here because ain't nobody here till we get to heaven. Right. But it is, show me that. And then I realized, like, you never know how many other people are listening who struggle with the same thing. But they never had a safe place to feel like, oh, I can resonate there. And I even look at Jesus, like Thomas was doubting. You know, Jesus was crucified. Yeah. He raises again. The other disciples are like, hey, like, Jesus is alive. Yeah. But for whatever reasons, Thomas wasn't there. And Thomas was like, look, unless I see him, you know what I'm saying, I'm not believing. And so when Jesus appears to Thomas, what's the first thing Jesus shows him?
Scars.
His scars. Yeah. But because the reality is, sometimes the best way to reach a person is to show them I survived the very thing that you're thinking about giving up because of. You know what I mean? And so I found it to be beneficial in my preaching, my teaching, and my leading, to show my scars. Yeah. To show, like, hey, I life with me too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it's about progression, not perfection. And so here are my scars. You know,
you better teach.
No, but that's true. Yeah,
I think that's a huge reason of why I brought you on here, because, like, as y'all see, he's super open, super vulnerable. He's 24, and as knowledgeable
24.
as you.
Oh, man.
That's young.
I feel old.
It's young for the type of knowledge you have. I feel like as.
Can I pause you?
Go ahead.
That's scars. I don't. Whatever wisdom or knowledge you think I have. Yeah. It's because of scars. 21-year-old Sam ain't talking like this. 21-year-old Sam is talking about, yeah, we having fun, and we gonna do this event. We gonna pack out that room. Yeah. We gonna have fun. This Sam is the Sam with scars.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like to preach while feeling unworthy. I know what it's like to preach, and if we can really go there, I know what it's like to preach to a group of people who think you're unworthy.
Yeah.
And to preach through that tension. It's scars.
Yeah.
So that's whatever knowledge you think I have is because of scars. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, I feel like I've seen so much from the friends I have that are going to ministry at any level. That mean they feel called to preach, or they just, they've been at the college campus doing whatever they got to do. I've seen so many people, like, because of whether they're going through something currently, or their sins they struggle with, or even just because of their past, that'll make them immediately run. Like, they may feel that calling for years, and because of all the things they struggle with and how imperfect they feel, it's quick for them to be like, nah, I'm not the one. And so that's a big reason, like, why I feel led to bring you, because I know you're going to be open and honest. And also through the conversation, you can see that you're not perfect.
Not at all.
Yet God uses you such a mighty way to help so many people. And in the same way, like, that can happen for anybody who's watching, who's feeling unworthy, unperfect, because you are, and who's feeling all of those things. God can still use you, and he does still use broken people.
Two things to this. Is one, you can't find me nowhere in scripture outside of Jesus where God used anybody perfect.
Nowhere.
Abraham, Noah got drunk.
Till they got on it.
David and Solomon
Yeah.
had a women problem. I mean, go down the list. Peter would cuss you out.
Yeah.
Paul, he called himself the chief of sinners. Right? And I would even go as far to use, God don't want to use people who think they got it together.
True. Because that pride.
because God knows you'll take the credit for whatever happens. And so God has a special affinity for broken people. Yeah. Broken people.
So then what advice, like, would you give? Say somebody came to you and they was like, you know, Sam, I'm really feeling called to preach, right? And it's like somebody young, even younger than you, 20, 21. And they're like, but this I still struggle with. I still do this. I'm still sleeping with. I'm still all these things. Like, what would be your go-to advice?
First and foremost, obviously seek God. Yeah. Because preaching ain't for the faint of heart. Preaching ain't something. Unfortunately, I think in today's culture we've made preaching look fun. Yeah. Because we've some crazy way built some type of celebrity and clout around preaching, which is really unfortunate. Like, the early day preachers were killed. You know what I mean? Like, so, but one, seek God on, do you really want to preach? Or do you just like the attention you think you could get from it? That's one.
Let me pause you. Yeah, I got to tell the story real quick. He's going to kill me, but I'm going to say it. I think he open about it. So my boyfriend, y'all know Reese, he been out here.
No, don't do him like that.
No,
not my brother.
He shares his story. No. And if you don't, okay. But so, he, for the longest, y'all, this is the biggest reason I almost didn't get with him. But for the longest, he was like, I want to preach. I want to be a pastor. I was like, okay, I'm not being a pastor's wife, so figure that out. But so he kept saying that, and I was like, okay, you know what? I still like him or whatever, so we're going to see. And so when I first invited Reese to go to Sam's church, even before we were together, him and Sam kind of talked or whatever, and then it was a period of time where they spent a lot of time together. Reese got to see a lot behind the scenes and what went into preaching and all of that stuff. And so it was one night, at this point we were long distance. He was at home at school. He FaceTimed me, and he's like, yeah, I'm done. I said, what?
I didn't even know about this.
He goes, yeah, I'm not being a preacher anymore. And I was like, what happened? Because he had wanted to be this all throughout high school. And even majority of our this was our freshman year. Majority of our first year, he wanted to be a preacher. Yeah. He followed Sam around for a couple weeks, maybe a month or so. He's done. So,
really?
As I'm asking him what it is about it, and he just was talking about, he didn't know, it was so much that goes into it. He didn't know all the stress that comes with it. He didn't know you get up there, you say word from God, you have fun, you move on. And so he did not know it took so much behind the scenes to work with other people, to have disagreements, to work through those things, all the things, the whole team that you had to work with, all the things. And so as soon as he saw a few times of that, he was done with it. But he did come to the conclusion, which he doesn't mind me sharing this because he shares it a lot, that it was more of an attention thing. because he often felt like men in the church weren't seen, and he was like, I feel like the only person that's seen in the church, if you a musician or you a pastor. And so he took it as you're saying, like he saw preaching, it looks fun, and I'll be seen in that way.
And unfortunately, that's a flaw, I think, of the modern day church, is we think the only gift that's worth being acknowledged is the preaching gift.
Yeah.
But it's so many gifts. The gift of evangelism, the gift of fellowship. And I think that's crucial. And I know we're going all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think that's really crucial because there are a lot of people who maybe feel like they don't have anything to offer because they don't see their gift being celebrated. Yeah. But it's like, no, like what you do, it literally matters. Right. Like God gives gifts so you can use it because it matters. The Bible teaches that we're many members but one body. And so it's just because you may not be the head, don't mean this pinky toe don't matter. It do. And try losing it. You know what I mean? Or don't mean your ear or whatever part of the body God has called you to be. Yeah. Be that. And I think we have to do better at celebrating those other parts of the body. That it ain't all about the guy who gets on the stage, or it's not all about the young lady who's leading the song of worship. But sometimes it's about that nice, sweet, quiet person that stands in the back, you never see, but behind the scenes make it happen. Right. Or don't forget about that young lady who stands with this welcome sign and really makes you feel welcome. Like all of those gifts matter. So where were we? I'm sorry.
Oh, we was talking about what advice would you give to somebody like who felt called to preach but they just felt unqualified? Yeah. So one, make sure your heart behind it is right. In short. Two is step out on it. One thing I've discovered is when God really gifts you and calls you, He'll also send other people or situations to affirm it. Okay. So like for me, ever since I was in middle school, I would be around older pastors and they'd be like, "What's up, young preacher? When's the first sermon? Yeah. When you started, like all of those things." And for a while, I thought, oh, they just joking because they know who my family is. But it wasn't until I got older and really began to see. Whereas, no, certain small things will confirm and affirm what God is doing in you. Yeah. And so pay attention to those signs. And then just do it. Imperfect and all. Now, this does not mean that you get to operate in your calling and completely ignore what you wrestle with. Paul asked this question. So because grace abounds, does that mean we get to sin? And he said, God forbid. That the reality is, you got your stuff. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Yes, you are imperfect. And you will never be perfect until the day you see Jesus Christ. But you ought to do your best. Yeah. My dad would always say, you'll never be sinless, but you ought to want to sin less. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it is, do the work. And now I'm going to be real open. Do the work. Do the heart work. Because if you don't fix your addictions, if you don't fix your lust, if you don't fix your lying and your manipulation tendencies, if you whatever it is, whatever your thing is, if you don't fix it, it'll start to show up on that stage or on that platform. One of my big brothers in the ministry would always say, Sam, my biggest prayer for you is that you don't become a public success and a private failure. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we settle for just being a public success. Yeah. But we are completely okay with being private failures. So you settle with having, 10,000 followers and people supporting whatever you're doing. But your family and friends can't stand you because you're an arrogant butthole. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people say, use that scripture, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? And a lot of times we only talk about that on the context of eternity, heaven and hell. And that's true. But I also look at it on an even more practical level. Yeah. What does it profit somebody to build a big platform but have no relationship with your family?
What does it profit a man to make 6-7 figures,
Yeah.
but your kids can't stand you, but your wife hates you?
Yeah.
What? Like, really think about that. Like, what does it profit a man to be a public success, but your private life, when the doors are closed, when the camera's off, when the lights go out, when nobody's calling your name? Because at the end of the day, you still got to be able to sit with you.
Yeah.
That's where I began to start pivoting, because I was that guy. I was that guy where, I could do my thing.
Yeah.
I could do that as long as they still shouting on Sundays. As long as the preaching invitation is still coming.
Right.
But it got to the point where I didn't sit right well with me. I didn't like the guy I was sitting in the mirror, because I was slowly but surely starting to turn into the preachers my daddy warned me about.
Wow.
Like, they can preach. My dad would say, you don't want to be the preacher. And this is the preacher I was turning into, 23 years old, like recently, where they preach good, but they live so bad you don't want to see them walk off the pulpit. Because if they walk off the pulpit, it's over. And if you don't do that work, your public ministry and whatever that is, not just what you do in church, but whatever you do, it only has a shelf life.
Wow.
Because you only go as high as your heart can go. You know what I mean? So, Dr. Charlie Day said, how high can God lift you without losing you? And so, that's pivotal.
Man.
That's pivotal. That's pivotal.
I gotta remember to take notes for myself before
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. But even like, because that's one thing I want to ask you about too. So you talked about like losing yourself in ministry and all that. You know, like how I think I see churches.
And it can happen quick.
When I see churches grow, like often when because I have so many different pastors and bishops and everybody in my family, and so I see like them start growing, they start getting bigger, or more attention on social media, YouTube, whatever it may be, right? I feel like I often see it being like a direct correlation between the numbers growing and then them kind of, I don't want to say getting beside themselves, but getting a little different than they were at the beginning, right?
Sure.
So how do you feel like you don't get caught up in the numbers? Because like, let me give you the reason why. I'm also asking this for me personally.
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example on a way, way, way smaller scale than what you do, right?
Ain't smaller.
So
no, but I mean this because it goes back to them gifts when we celebrate one. What you do is just as impactful to the kingdom as what I do.
Yeah.
At diminishing yourself. Okay.
Well, on a scale.
And in the comments, y'all let her know. Stop doing that. All right.
Back at UH, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm leading back campus ministries. And so it was just one Bible study, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about a lot of different topics. But it was just one, I think I was teaching on like habitual sins and stuff like that. Sure. And so it was one I had wrestled with for a while. And I'm like, I feel good about it. I prepared about it. I thought this is going to be one of the good ones. And so, at that point, we was having 25, 30 weeks. So I said, this is like, this is a good time. Yeah. And it's one of them, it wasn't even final season. Wasn't nothing really going on. Mm-hmm. And it's one of them ones I walk in there, and that day maybe we have 4 or 5 people.
It'd be like that.
And I've always, but at the beginning, when we only had 4 or 5, I was like, I'm used to this. But once we started getting that 25, 30, for that 1, 4 or 5, and for that to be the one time I was really like ready to teach that one. Like I felt like it was a struggle to me to teach the whole time. I was still intentional, but it was a struggle. Like, man, it's only 4 or 5 people here. Why did I have to put in all of this hard work for these 4 or 5 people? And so from that, I'm still like having that struggle of not thinking about the numbers, right? So how do you not get caught up in the ups and the downs of the numbers of the church?
So, fun fact, I still struggle with that sometimes. But one thing that's helped me get better, because I'm not speaking from a place of perfection. Like there's some days where it's like I'm looking too, like where they at, and sometimes it can be discouraging, right? But I can tell you this. I know what it's like. Like my whole life, and it's crazy I'm just now reflecting on this. My whole life, I've been able to see both sides. So, growing up as a kid, my dad's church never had more than 200 members. But my granddad, in his heyday, was saying thousands a week. Right? So I could remember in the same day being in a service where there's 50 people, and in the service where there's 1,500 people. Same day. I remember as a teenager, I would be in one service where there's 30 people and another service where there's 300,
Yeah.
600, 800, you know? And then even in my ministry, I know what it's like to preach to 5 people and to preach to 500 people. I remember when we first started Caya, and I remember when we were in this small little classroom, and it was 7, 8 people, and I remember I know what it's like to preach, and we have to use every piece of chairs we can find in the building.
Yeah.
So I've been able to experience both, and the same God that used me when it was smaller is the same God who can use you when it's larger. And the reality is, the world gets you caught up in numbers. The world, how many subscribers, how many likes, how many followers, how many shares or reposts, whatever. Like, that's what the world, that's what businesses care about. I ask you this question. How many mega churches were in the Bible?
Don't say.
When they got bigger, they just went to another house. Churches met in houses. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not against big church. God can use big churches to do great work, but he can also use small churches.
Yeah.
And if I'm completely honest, some of my best sermons were sermons where the church wasn't full.
Yeah.
And some of my worst sermons were the sermons where the church was packed. You know what I mean? Like, so it don't matter. As long as you're obedient to what God is doing. Be obedient, whether it's 5, 50, 500, 5,000. God ain't worried about that. God is worried about obedience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's all that matters. And so that's one thing that's kept me. And I'll tell you a true story. When I was first starting up a Bible study, true story, God's my witness. That day it was like 4 people there. Literally 4 people.
Wow.
And so I was outside about to walk in, and my cousin, who was one of the 4, was like, "Hey, bro, like, what you doing? Let's get started." And I'll tell you this, cousin, when it's over. And this is why you'll know why it's such a blessing. Can you think about it? We'll talk.
Okay.
And so this cousin, he was like, "Hey, like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
I said, "Man, I'm finna go in, but ain't nobody here, so let's go." He said, "Them 4 people need Jesus too." What?
Yeah.
But it changed the way I view ministry.
Yeah.
It's okay, yeah, it may not fit what you think it should be.
Yeah.
But you just gonna disrespect the needs of the hearts and souls that are there?
Yeah.
No, they need Jesus too. And so let that be an encouragement. Like, yeah, it may not reach the numbers you want, but who you have, they need it too.
Yeah.
And so being faithful and respecting who God sends.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect them by not giving them your all because it's not as many as you want to see.
Yeah.
God sent them there for that reason. So give it your best.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think one thing that does help me, even though I'm struggling, but one thing I still think that helps me is like there's always something that God uses after that, like to show me that it was like meaningful. And not saying that it even has to be like all 4 people get a life to Christ, which would be great, but like that's not always the case. But it's always like some small or big or whatever thing that God like confirms it. Like that one person's like, I really needed that. For me, that's all I need.
That's all you need.
Thank you.
Mission accomplished.
That's all I need. And so I think that like, and you see that all the time in the Bible. Like Jesus, I mean, yes, he did something for the multitude and the crowds and stuff, but it's so many things he just did one-on-one. There's so many things that he just did. Like, and all the parables about the lost coin and the sheep and the 99 for the one. So you see the emphasis that he puts on like each soul, each person I care about, you know? And so I think that it's helped to always that he confirms in some way of like, that one person needed
that. Because you want to know why? Jesus saw souls.
Yeah.
We see numbers.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Like Jesus saw, okay, I'm going to heal that person. I'm going to save their marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, that person's dealing with suicidal ideations. Let me speak to that.
Yeah.
We see, okay, that's another tithe. That's going to make our pictures look good on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, this going to fit my aesthetic. It make people I'm trying to impress who don't even subscribe to what I'm doing, but I want to look good to them. That's going to make them think I'm doing something.
Yeah.
We see numbers, but when we change our perspective and start seeing souls more than we see numbers, all it'll change.
But so is it bad to like have the desire to want your church to grow or to want your ministry to grow?
It's not bad. I pray, that God continues to expand, our ministry. We have a big conference coming up, and I pray God give us overflow.
Right.
It's not a bad thing, but I think your heart behind it, that's what matters.
Yeah.
So why do you want to see more people?
So they can see you, or so they can see God. Yeah.
What what? That's what I'm saying. When we move from numbers to souls, it'll change how you think. Why do you want to have 500 people here? Even let me ask, why do you want to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube?
Are you asking as a rhetorical?
Rhetorical. But why? Like, think about it though.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
And if a lot of us are honest, there have been some places because it fits our personal ambition.
Yeah.
But sis, God don't give ambition. I think God gives burdens. You feel what I mean?
That's good.
Because ambition, when you satisfy your high, you can wash your hands with it.
Yeah.
Burden, even when you don't want to do it, it's still like Jeremiah said, like a fire shut up in your bones. You know what I mean? And so I think when we get to the point of asking, why do you want it? And if your desire is, well, I want to reach as many people as I can. Yeah. If that's really your heart's desire, if it's really your heart's desire to say, because I want to spread revival, or I want to be a blessing to my community, or to my generation, then I think God will give it to you. Yeah. But if your desire is just so, it's completely flesh and completely personal, then God, no. And now think about this. This is my big brother. He really changed how I viewed it. Because I used to think, honestly, like when I was around 18, 19, man, if I'm seeing 50 people a week, I ain't doing it right. I would think like that. Just immature thinking, arrogant thinking. And he said, Sam, let me ask you this. He said, you want to be a pastor? I said, yeah, man. He said, well, you do know, as a pastor, when you go to heaven and as you sit before Jesus, you literally have to give an account for the condition of every person's soul that's a part of your church. So watch what he said. He said, now if you're honest, you have a hard time making sure your soul is right. Right. Yet alone all the souls of those who are in your church. He said, so when you put that into account, do you really want a lot?
I'll take 2. If that.
And that's the thing. Yeah. If people really knew what came, with the much, to whom much is given, much is required. If you really knew what was required that came with the packed out church, that came with the more followers, that came with the more subscribers, you would ask yourself, do I really want to deal with that? You would have a Reese moment.
Absolutely.
like you'll be like, wait a minute, I ain't signed up for that.
Wow.
And so, and then God knows. I'm sorry, but this is my soapbox. God also knows some of us can't handle a lot right now. Yeah. Because he knows you'll get so arrogant. He knows you will stop ministering and start performing. And so the reality is, the Bible says every good and perfect thing comes from the Lord. Which means if God ain't gave it to you yet, could be one or two reasons. One, he know you ain't ready for it. Like, that's not his will for your life. And so the most dangerous thing is to hustle and get something that God didn't give. Because if God don't give it, he not sustaining it. Man. But it could be the other reason. It's like, he gonna have it for you, but you're not ready for that yet. You're not ready for it. Like I know you want the relationship. Yeah. But you're not ready for that.
Ooh, somebody just said ouch.
You know what I'm saying? Like I know you want more money, but you'll blow it right now.
Sure.
Like, I know you want more people, young preacher, but you're not ready for that yet. And so the reality is, in God's timing, and that's something I have to constantly remind myself. It's like, there's some things I'm probably asking for. God, no, I ain't ready for it yet. Yeah. Or it may not be that God want me to have it. Ooh. And so being okay with the no or the not yet is the real mark of faithfulness. And so that's all that is.
You can't say amen.
Say ouch. Say ouch.
Goodness.
Say ouch. This is fun.
This is painful. Stressful. Man, on a lighter note.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one thing I gotta get into before we end. I want to talk about relationships.
Oh,
I want to
no.
talk about relationships in ministry.
Oh no.
I have so many. For instance, one good friend I have, she just started doing some ministry at her church, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, from her perspective, it's like two things. I feel like it's the same thing for guys too, right? Either they're gonna.
How much time we got left? Oh, Lord. Okay.
I even use that for.
Let's see. All right.
I use that for our perspective, right? For my single friends. It's two things when they hear like pastor, preacher, minister, right? It's two reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So 50% they gonna run away because like the whole pastor, preacher thing is a little too much. Whether that be they grew up seeing it or they just don't want to have to be preacher's wife, pastor wife, right?
Which I have a whole thing about that, but maybe another time if God has me back.
Definitely will. And then number two, I can't say what I'm really gonna say.
Say it.
They hear preacher, pastor, and it's low key like a turn on. I'm being 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's like
I've had a girl say, "I wanted to date you because I like the way you preach."
No.
True story.
Exactly, right? So there's those two big reactions.
Yeah.
So for your perspective, like whether that be dating, all that type of stuff, how do you feel like you're supposed to manage dating when you're in that position of like preacher or minister in any type of way?
First, let me openly say I'm not the expert at this. I'm not married. Nobody wants me. No, but really, I'm not the expert.
I'm putting Instagram down below.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, but please, no. But no. So let me preface everything I'm about to say with I'm not the expert. I haven't mastered it. A lot of this I'm finna say is speaking because of my own failed experiences. Okay, so let me just say that because somebody gonna say like, I know he ain't talking that. I know, okay, I know. But okay, that was fun. No, but really, it's so layered. It really is. So let me only speak from my experience. I'm not gonna project on no other preacher or pastor. That's your thing. From my experience, one young minister. Is this only for preachers or is this for just people in general?
You can do preachers first.
Well, okay. One, you got to ask yourself, do you really have the capacity to seriously date somebody? Do you really have the capacity? Like, I'm sorry.
You good.
Like, do you really have the capacity? Because a lot of times, a lot of guys want to be in these relationships to fit their aesthetic, and I'm going to touch that because that is I hate it. But ask yourself really, because I realized a lot of early on and very recently, I've been trying to date or I've considered it or entertained it. Yeah. And I had to realize, man, you just ain't ready. Like, I'm so focused on building what God has called me to build and making sure all of that. I didn't have time. But the reality is, I was trying to convince myself, I got time, I can make more. Yeah. But I didn't. Because the reality is, when you are seriously dating, you got to think, not just for you, but the person you are attached to. And especially if you dating to marry, you know what I mean? And so you got to first be real with yourself and ask yourself, am I really ready? Yeah. Do I really have the capacity? And for me, I had to have that hard conversation. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the capacity. No, I just, and so that's the first thing. Second thing, you got to ask yourself why. Like, don't let people pressure you. Like, oh, you got to get you a first lady. All right, you got to get somebody that match what you do. Yeah. Because the reality is, again, from experience, feeling that pressure to get you somebody can lead you a lot of times out of God's will.
They want y'all to be a ministry power couple.
That's where I was finna go, which is the dumbest concept in the world. Like, What makes you a power couple in God's church?
Yeah.
This is God's church, but you want to be the power couple. And the reality is that's again modernized Western culture that has turned God's church into another way to get famous. And but I'll be honest, I've experienced those kind of ladies where it was, okay, all right, I feel like God calling me to do something, and so I'm gonna get attached to a man who's doing something, and we're gonna be going live together, and we're gonna do vlogs. And I had one of them lady post, I can't wait to do ministry with my man who do ministry too, just so we can look good. And I'm all good. We want to be equally yoked.
Yeah.
But just because I preach and you sing don't mean we equally yoked. Just because we both good at church don't mean we equally yoked. Because some of the most people I've been most unequally yoked with were people in church.
Yee.
See, and a lot of times we think being Christian or being called or being gifted is a sign that there should be a connection.
Yeah.
And that ain't it. Maybe we're just called to do God's work together. And that's it. But when we start getting this power couple thing going, and we start thinking, well, this gonna help me get more followers, and now we get to be an example, and now we get to let people record us as we walk in church together, and they watch us shake hands together, and I support him preach, and he support me speak at the ladies' conference, and it's like, that's cool if that's what God has assigned you to do, but don't turn this relationship into another glorified business arrangement. That it fits your aesthetic. And so one of the quickest ways to get a no from me is the moment I sense you want to be some type of power couple.
Wow.
Because one, neither one of us are worth power.
Facts.
Again, power couple in God's church. Crazy work. But it's that. And there's a lot of that, unfortunately, I think in our generation, where it is. It's like, let me be connected to that because it's gonna make both of us look good.
Ooh. You don't know how many girls I know firsthand, same age as me, want that. Like sis, I get it, but maybe your man is just the guy who work in the parking lot, and that's fine.
But he fits your life.
Yeah.
It don't have to be the preacher. It don't have to be the worship leader. It don't have to be the pastor. Because a lot of y'all ain't ready for what come with that anyway.
That's what I was going to say. That's one reason I think I went too far, but not wanting it too much. But
you ain't ready.
I think, like, just seeing with my parents, like, and that was never their goal to even do ministry together. They just happened to both already be in ministry when they started dating. So it just went. But, like, as a marriage, as they do ministry together now, how much even, marriage hard anyway, but how much extra that puts on a marriage?
Let me tell you, I think my mama the strongest woman on this earth.
Whew.
Because the reality is, if you really want to know what it looks like being connected to that, and I've been able to see it, I lived it. Like, I watched my mom with my dad. I watched my grandmother with my grandfather. Yeah. I watched my aunt with my uncle, my sister-in-law with my brother. I had a front row seat. The reality is, okay, yeah, you look good on the pictures. Mm-hmm. You look good in the comments. You look good on the church flyer. Mm-hmm. But you ain't ready, because when your husband getting attacked spiritually, can you handle that?
They can't.
Like, can you really cover him in prayer?
Yeah.
Can you when he start getting criticized in the church, can you handle that with grace and with love? Not popping off, standing on business for your man, and now you done emptied this man's church out because you cussing everybody out. Not that.
With grace.
But can you do it with grace?
Oof.
Can you deal with the rumors and the lies and the gossip? Mm-hmm. Can you deal with his schedule? Are you graced for that?
A full-time Baptist schedule is.
Are you graced with sometimes he just may not have it that day? Yeah. Are you willing to discern? Okay, let me give that space there. Yeah. Like all of those things. Like, are you willing to help him when he's stressed, when that depression hit, when that rough moment hit, and vice versa? Because there's a lot of guys out here who see gifted women and want to latch on to that. Yeah, bruh, are you secure enough in yourself as a man of God to handle a gifted, anointed woman.
Well,
right? Like, and a lot of times people think, again, it fits your aesthetic, but bro, you ain't grace for that. You don't want that smoke. You don't want the smoke. So get rid of this church power. Oh my God, it's so stupid. It really is stupid.
You crashing somebody's dreams.
I hope I am. It's stupid. Like, it's not what it's cracked up to be at all. It's the dumbest thing ever. And so that's that. I feel like there's so much more to say, but I had to go off on this power couple thing. Yeah. That's dumb. That's dumb.
A lot of folks just got their dream crushed.
Can I say one more thing I feel led to? Young women of God, especially who want to date men who have public platforms in the church. Don't use that relationship. How can I word this? Don't use that relationship and disguise it as a relationship when really you just want to get closer to God.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I'm speaking from, it's a double-sided coin, so I'm going to address both sides. But a lot of times, young women, you know, they have good intentions. Like, they want to do relationships God's way. They want to go deeper in God. And so they think, well, if I get a man of God, what better way?
He gonna lead me.
If I get a preacher, what better way?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, when you have their proximity, you also have proximity to their humanity.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, the quickest way to get broke up with is when they see humanity. And you supposed to be a preacher. Well, I was human first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like preacher don't mean perfect.
Yeah.
You know, anointing don't mean you just sinless. Like, and so what happens is you set yourself up to be hurt in the long run.
Yeah.
Because your expectations was me being connected to him means I'm going to be closer connected to God. When the reality is that only comes when you do the work to be closer with God.
Absolutely. And
I see a lot of times, whether it's through observation or even in certain situations I failed in. And I'm going to tell you why I say I failed. Is because a lot of times young women think, in my attempt to further my walk with God, let me get connected to somebody who seems like they're connected to God. Yeah. And the reality is, when you start seeing their cracks and their flaws and their failures, you're broken. Because he was your only source to God. And you thought being with him was going to mean you was with God. But God don't do partnerships. You know what I'm saying? Like, your walk with him has to be individual. Now, the other side of this coin is because I failed and I've repented for this. And this is completely transparency, vulnerability. It's happened. I've repented. God's forgiven me, so you can say what you want. Yeah. But I've made the mistake of trying to date a young lady when really I was just supposed to be spiritual counsel.
Man.
I'm showing you scars. So you don't, like, I would always tell Reese, I'm telling you what I did so that you don't ever do what I did. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, let me do enough failing for the both of us. Yeah. And I mean this, like, I made the mistake of not controlling my lust. Yeah. And my natural attraction to a young lady. And I tried to pursue something more. It wasn't with bad intentions, like, ooh, I'm gonna play her and I'm gonna get what I want because I'm the preacher and I can get her. Yeah. It wasn't that. It was a natural attraction, natural connection. It was, but I didn't do the work of discerning. Wait, no, you're supposed to be a leader for her. Yeah. And here's why, because. And I noticed the trend. As long as me and her were good, she was good with God. She was praying, reading her Bible. She would have questions, man, like, what is it? It was good. And I'm thinking, we good. We have a Bible study together. Yeah. This the one. You know what I mean? And then when we weren't good, her walk with God was affected. Ah, man. Because her walk with God was, again, connected to my walk with God. Yeah. Or her perceived walk with God that she felt I had. Wow. And so the reality is, a lot of us, and women too, Because there's a lot of anointed women in ministry, whether that's in church, on college campuses, wherever, where there are young men who trying to get it right. And so where he want to connect himself to you because he think being with you means he's better with God. Mm-hmm. But women, you got to do the work of discerning. Am I supposed to be a sister in Christ to this guy and really help him get it together? Or is there really supposed to be something here? Because you mess it up.
And they not maybe
Do
just
we
think
have time?
What?
Do we have time?
Oh my gosh. This should be last thing.
No, I love this. I love this. I can do this all day.
This is what it reminds me of so much. What it starts with, and I did it so many times with my friends. And even before I was in a relationship, get that on the record. But before I was in a relationship, like I was the same way. Yeah. Like it starts with, from a women's perspective, it starts with as soon as the handsome young man walks through the door, whether that be at church or a Bible study on college campus, your first thought cannot be, oh, will I end up dating him? Or, will I be talking?
But it's because it's so rare.
Yeah, that too.
You know, like finish, but it's rare, so I understand why.
I understand that. That's me. Yeah. Absolutely. Every time somebody comes like, who is that?
Yeah.
Does he know the Lord? Like all of that.
Yeah.
But I think, especially like those who like you're anointed, you especially already know your calling in your life and all those things, you have to have the type of discipline to first pray. Like, is he coming into this group as an assignment for me? Like to talk to whether I'm discipling him or connecting to somebody else I'm discipling him to walk with. Is this somebody God is sending in my life as a brother? Because I know that like now the church is trying to, I'm not gonna say the church, but now like often I feel like in certain spaces of churches I've been in, they try to like keep any brother and sister relationship from happening because of the fear of something happening. Yeah. But I do still think there are like brother, sister, Christ, godly relationships he puts together to learn from each other. And so I think that we have to discipline ourselves, especially, I see a lot of time on college campus, so I'm talking just to that. Especially on college campus, when it is rare that a man shows up to Bible study, our first thing can't be, let me go talk to him afterward to try to get to know him in another type of way. Yeah. Your intention has to be, let me go talk to him, see how he felt, see if he felt comfortable, so I can get him closer to Christ.
Yeah, and I'm only speaking because of Scar. Yeah. I think the title of this is Scar. Sermons from the Scar. That's a good series. All right. Anyway, but really, like, and I'm convicted, and I am, and a lot of times it still eats at me because it's like I was supposed to be a leader to you, or I was supposed to be a big brother to you, but because just not disciplining your fleshly thoughts. And it was never like, oh, I want to have sex. Yeah. It was, I want a relationship too. But it was not that. That was an assignment. Yeah. That's what that was. And you compromise your assignment. It's one of the movies when they have like the secret investigators. Mm-hmm. And the number one do not do. Yeah. The number one don't is to fall in love with your assignment because the mission is now compromised. Yeah. Oh, man. And for me, I'm not going to say y'all, but for me, there have been a lot of moments where I've compromised the mission because I lost track of the assignment. I didn't pray. I didn't discern. Yeah. I was just, oh, she's pretty. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's a real thing. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. And so that's one component of dating. I don't know if there's more time for that. But like that's a thing. And just really, I think if I had to sum it up, just being discerning enough and in tune with Holy Spirit enough to know, God, should I pursue this? Like they look good on paper, but am I graced for this? Mm-hmm. Are we equally yoked beyond just we both like to go to church? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, but there's no such thing as a Christian power couple.
That's the thing you would just take away from the whole video.
Stop it. It's weird. It's weird.
Oh, man. You know we can sit here, we can talk
all day. We can all day. And
we probably will. I gotta have you for a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. But even just as we're ending, wow, we talked about so much. Even as we're ending, what is the final word that you would just give for, not for preacher, minister, anybody, just for our generation? Our generation, what is a crucial thing? Like if you had somewhere, it was our whole generation in the crowd, and you had a couple of sentences to tell them that was crucial for our lives, what would you say?
Wow. One, Jesus is the center. Keep the main thing, and that is your walk and your relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's your teacher. That's all you need in Jesus. Two, you're not stuck. You're just developing. And sometimes development can look a whole lot like being stuck. Yeah. But I think in closing, Galatians 6 and 9, don't be weary in doing well, for in due season or at the right time, you'll reap if you don't give up. You're not stuck. You're just being developed.
I needed that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My sis, you know I love you.
Man. So of course I will have all the information about, not his Instagram, but I'll have all the information about the church and everything. But of course, New Covenant Baptist Church, and the address and everything will be down there. 6 p.m. on Saturdays if you live in the Dallas area. Sundays, I'm sorry. 6 p.m. on Sundays if you live in the Dallas area. It's in DeSoto. Again, all the addresses and stuff will be in the link in the bio. But come through, y'all. As you can see, Sam is full of the Holy Ghost. And it's a really genuine safe space. As authentic and as honest as he is on here, that's every single Sunday. And so, yeah, if you want to have a space that not only experience him, but the whole family that is there at Caya. Oh, it's called Caya, by the way, which is an acronym for Come As You Are, which shows how welcome it is. It really is welcome for anybody in any walk of life. And I guarantee you're going to walk in and feel safe. Take my word for it. If not, we can talk about it. But I guarantee you're going to walk in and feel safe no matter what area of life or what season that you're in. So, yeah, all the information will be down below. Please come out if you're in that area, or just follow it on Instagram and all the things. I will have the church Instagram in the bio. So, yeah, is there anything else you want to tell them to look forward to that's coming up? Think we'll give more about the conference that's going on or anything?
Conference, August 9 through 10 is free. Come out. But what I really want to say, Gav's amazing. Y'all keep supporting. This is a dope work, and Gav's a dope person. So I'm proud of you. I love you. You know how we rock. But I need to say that publicly for your people. She's amazing. Yeah, support. This is worth supporting.
And then the conference that he speaks by,
I'll
put the information below, because people need to be in the building, because I think God's going to do some amazing things.
We got to get enough seats first.
And we will. I'm telling you. There are people I know that follow in the Dallas area, and I'm telling you. Of course, my Instagram is always in the link below if you want to get connected with Sam for real reasons, as far as learning more about his church, or I'm sure maybe questions about Jesus he'll answer. I can answer as well. If I can't answer, I'll send it over to him. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you loved it as much as I did, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it. Share it with anybody who may need that word about anything that we talk about, relationships and preaching and life. Just share that word and get it around as many people as possible to, get God's name out per usual, and to give him all the glory and all the honor, because that's what we do this for. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I pray that it truly blessed you, and I'll be back next week actually with a member from Caya. Her name is Nisha, and we'll see that video out next week as she talks about her gifting and different things we'll go through. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all next week, next Saturday, 12 p.m.